he is simply going to want to fold and return after the divorce.
Meghan is a controlling, narcissistic personality.
Meghan's jewellery from Diana is hers to keep.
Prince Harry may already be building his escape route back to Britain before his marriage even ends, and if that day ever comes, Meghan Markle could walk away still holding Diana's jewelry while Harry is left begging the country he abandoned to take him back. That is the brutal danger now hanging over this marriage.
If the marriage ends, where else is he going to go? He's not staying in the States. He's going to want to go home at his convenience, of course. And absolutely.
Harry once sold California as freedom. He treated Britain like a prison, royal life like a burden, and the palace like an enemy. But suddenly, the direction of travel has changed. He keeps looking back. He keeps fighting for security in Britain. He keeps returning without Meghan. And the louder the talk becomes about money, status, and life after the marriage, the more his UK comeback starts to look less like nostalgia and more like an emergency exit.
And he himself wanted to leave Britain because she told him it was impossible for them to live happily in Britain. And for that, I blame her entirely.
No divorce has been announced, no separation has been confirmed, but the financial and legal questions surrounding a possible split are no longer small. They cut directly into Harry's family history, his identity, and the few royal possessions that still connect him to his mother. Because there is reportedly no prenup agreement forcing Meghan to return Diana's jewelry after a divorce.
Meghan's jewellery from Diana is hers to keep. There was no loan as part of this, and it is very likely that any divorce settlement would see her walk away with that jewellery.
Think about that for a second. Harry gave Meghan pieces connected to the woman whose memory he has placed at the center of his entire public life. Diana is used in his interviews, his documentaries, his memoir, his attacks on the press, and his explanation for almost every major decision he has made. Yet, if the marriage collapsed, those gifts would not simply snap back into his possession. They could remain with Meghan unless she agreed to return them as part of a settlement. That changes everything.
Prince Harry could make returning the jewellery part of any divorce arrangement. So, for example, I'm going to give you this percentage of my inheritance or a certain amount of millions, and in return, I expect you to return the gifts that were given to you during our courtship, which would, of course, include that Diana jewellery. But that would have to be something that Meghan agreed to.
The jewelry is not just expensive, it is emotional leverage. It carries royal history, public fascination, and a direct link to Diana. Harry may have believed he was placing those pieces inside a permanent marriage, but without a clear agreement, permanence means nothing. A gift is a gift. Once it is handed over, sentiment does not automatically reverse the transaction. Harry could try to negotiate. He could offer money, property, or a larger settlement in exchange for the return of specific items. But that would mean paying to recover pieces tied to his own mother.
This is one of the big issues with Harry giving that jewellery to Meghan. My understanding is that there was absolutely no sort of prenup agreement that after any divorce, that jewellery would return to Harry. So what it means is that it would be part of a divorce settlement.
Imagine the humiliation. Imagine sitting across from divorce lawyers and watching Diana's jewelry become another line on a financial spreadsheet. And this is where the UK story becomes much more serious. Harry is not simply visiting Britain for ceremonies and court cases anymore. He is trying to rebuild a position. He wants security. He wants access. He wants recognition. He wants a route back that does not force him to admit that leaving destroyed more than it fixed. For years, the message from California was absolute. This was home, this was freedom, and there was no going back. Britain was described as unsafe. The institution was portrayed as cold.
It was actually Meghan Markle that was the driving force behind Harry's departure from the royal family.
Well, absolutely.
Before we continue, I want to mention something really quick. Organizing your family's important information is one of those things most of us know we should do, but we keep putting it off. That's exactly why there's the Family Vault. It gives you one place to organize your important documents, insurance, medical information, passwords, and more, so everything is easy to find when it's needed. You'll find the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on your screen. That's all. Now let's get back to today's story.
The family was accused of betrayal. Every bridge was set on fire in public, and Harry appeared convinced that Hollywood would replace everything he had lost. But Hollywood did not make him more important. It made him more exposed. In Britain, Harry was a prince before he entered the room. In California, he became a content deal, a memoir, a lawsuit, a podcast topic, and a famous husband trying to explain why he was still angry. His royal status gave him attention, but the attention did not create a stable new role.
He'd love to be able to be both in California and have great status in Britain. And the lack of any status in Britain and diminishing status in California means that I think on the whole, he's pretty frustrated.
The longer he stayed away, the smaller his place in Britain became. At the same time, his value in America began to depend on the very family he had spent years attacking. That is the trap. Harry cannot fully return to the royal world, but he cannot maintain his commercial importance without it. He cannot keep selling The Escape forever because The Escape has already happened. He cannot publish the same family grievances again and expect the same shock. He cannot build a new identity while constantly dragging the old one behind him. So now he is looking back at the only place where his name once carried automatic weight. His repeated solo returns matter. Meghan is not beside him walking through palace doors. She is not standing next to him as he tests the mood in Britain.
I think personally, I think they've separated their professional lives, but I think what's really a great problem for them now, as of in the last few weeks, is that Meghan has got no real income anymore. She's finished.
She is not sharing the pressure of his court battles or the awkwardness of his family contacts. Harry keeps making these journeys alone, and every solo arrival creates the same question. Is he repairing a relationship with Britain, or quietly preparing a life that no longer depends on Meghan being accepted there? The recent UK trip only made that question louder. Harry returned, moved through deeply personal family locations, and once again showed that Britain remains emotionally central to him. Highgrove, Althorpe, the memories of Diana, the possibility of contact with his father, none of this belongs to his California reinvention. It belongs to the life he publicly rejected, but has never emotionally escaped.
She actually sort of fueled his grievances. What happened until he met Meghan, he was quite happy in Britain. He sometimes obviously frustrated about not being able to land a stable relationship with a woman. But in terms of his status, he was much loved, very popular, and was doing very well. But when she got here and saw what fate awaited her in terms of being number two to Kate and not living in the luxury she wanted and having to obey the royal commands, she stoked constantly that he should feel aggrieved and should feel unhappy.
Meghan's position is completely different. There is no obvious public path waiting for her in Britain. There is no warm royal comeback. There is no realistic half-in, half-out role, where she appears for the glamorous moments, keeps her American business interests, controls the cameras, and avoids the duties she disliked. That fantasy collapsed years ago. Harry may imagine that time, family illness, or public exhaustion could soften the resistance to him. He is the king's son. He can present himself as damaged, regretful, isolated, and desperate to reconnect. Meghan does not have that advantage.
Why has Harry gone from just over a year ago briefing, I will never, ever even consider, even countenance leaving my new home of California, to wanting to be here permanently? So of course, this is about a post-marriage planning.
Her return would reopen every argument, every allegation, every interview, every leak, and every accusation that turned the Sussex departure into a permanent war. That creates a dangerous imbalance inside the marriage. Harry has a country to crawl back to. Meghan has a brand to protect in California. Harry's future value may depend on restoring some connection to Britain, Meghan's future value may depend on proving she no longer needs Britain at all. One needs the palace door to open. The other needs the world to believe she has already built something bigger outside it. Those two plans cannot easily survive in the same house. And then comes the security battle.
The realization for Harry has come later, but of course, a big part of his absolute, I would say, psychotic determination, hope you don't think that's going too far, to get this British security paid for by us, the British taxpayer, is because he knows that later in life, he is going to want to zip here, there, and everywhere, probably be based in the UK, and he's not going to be able to afford the $3 million security bill.
Harry's determination to regain taxpayer-funded protection in Britain has often been presented as a matter of fear, principle, and family safety, but it also has a practical consequence. Without that protection, a permanent or frequent UK life becomes brutally expensive. Private security at his level can cost millions. Hotels, transport, staff, legal teams, and controlled movements can turn every return into a financial operation. If Harry sees Britain as his long-term refuge, security is not a side issue. It is the foundation of the plan.
Both Harry and Meghan have been planning this for some time. Meghan Markle was actually selling a post-divorce book. We're right! She is doing that.
He cannot casually rebuild a British life while paying an enormous private bill every time he lands. He cannot move between California and the UK indefinitely if each trip drains more money. And he cannot expect the palace to restore his former privileges simply because the American dream stopped delivering. That may explain why he refuses to let the issue die. He is not fighting only over what happened when he left. He may be fighting over what becomes possible if he needs to come back. Come back for what? For his father? For Invictus? For status? For a permanent base? Or for the day when the marriage he defended against everyone else can no longer hold together?
If Harry has returned and has in some way made good with the British public, now I don't believe that's something he's ever going to be able to do. I don't know about you, but he can never make good with me. I will never forgive him for what he's done. I don't care if he goes and works in a soup kitchen for the next 30 years, which of course he would never do. But if he did do that, I would still not forgive him because you can never bring back the late Queen to live her final years on earth in peace. You can never bring back the late Prince Philip to live his final years on earth. You can never take away the claims of bullying and physical assault that were put forward by Harry about his brother Prince William.
That question becomes even sharper when the money is examined. Tom Bower now argues that Meghan's commercial position is weakening, that the couple's expenses are enormous, and that their ability to turn royal controversy into fresh income is running out. He also says Harry is frustrated by his fading status in both Britain and California. That combination is explosive. Less money, less influence, no clear royal role, and a marriage carrying the weight of every failed reinvention. The Sussex lifestyle does not operate on ordinary money. Security alone can consume a fortune.
Very ambitious, very fame-hungry, interested in social position and money. Are her ambitions at odds with what Harry wants?
Yes. I mean, Harry, if you are what he was, the third and now the fifth in line to succession, and you're a member of the royal family, your ambition isn't clearly material. I mean, he had all the money he needed. He had all the fame he needed. He had the applause he needed. The point about Meghan is she was looking for fame. She was looking for applause. She was looking for international recognition, which, of course, she failed to get because she had not enough talent.
Then there is the Montecito property, staff, travel, public relations, legal costs, business launches, production expenses, and the constant effort required to look more successful than the numbers may suggest. They do not merely need income. They need millions every year just to prevent the image from cracking. The original Netflix deal created the illusion of endless Hollywood power. The headline figure was enormous, but headline value is not the same as cash sitting untouched in a bank account. Projects had to be delivered. Some disappeared. Some failed to generate the expected cultural impact. The relationship changed. The machine that was supposed to turn Meghan and Harry into permanent entertainment royalty never produced a new identity stronger than their connection to the monarchy.
Well, you know, Piers, you're the first person to say how limited Prince Harry is, unfortunately, and how his wife trades off her husband's fame and fortune, or not so great fortune now. I mean, this is the problem, but we're still interested because, after all, he's a great character in our modern day.
Meghan's lifestyle business was meant to solve that problem. Jam, flour, sprinkles, wine, carefully staged launches, celebrity gifts, polished photographs, everything was designed to create the image of a powerful independent founder. But a luxury label cannot survive on royal curiosity alone. People have to keep buying. Products have to remain available. The company has to grow beyond Instagram excitement and headlines about who received a jar. The problem is not launching something. Meghan can always launch something. The problem is proving that the launch becomes a durable business. And Harry cannot rescue every venture with another story about his family.
He became hypersensitive and blamed the media for the crashes of his relationships, never thinking that they could have something to do with himself. So he's a very complicated, depressed, unintelligent man who is seeking a role and has got really nobody on whom he could rely, which is in the end where Meghan stepped in. I mean, a needy man met a woman who could help him with his needs.
That is why their separate professional lives matter. Meghan is increasingly sold as a solo lifestyle figure. Harry continues to move through court cases, Invictus, security disputes, and attempts to rebuild credibility in Britain. They may still appear together, they may still insist everything is stable, but their careers are no longer traveling toward the same destination. Meghan needs independence. Harry needs restoration. She needs her name to generate money without him. He needs his name to regain meaning because of where he came from. She is trying to turn Montecito into the center of her world. He keeps flying back to the world they fled. How long can those forces pull in opposite directions before something breaks? And what happens if the money becomes the final trigger?
Harry always needed and loved Meghan. It was a marriage made in heaven for him. She obviously went into the marriage with other things in mind, namely fame and fortune and a glittering career in California.
Financial pressure does not need a dramatic public collapse to damage a marriage. It enters through every decision. Which project gets funded? Which lawsuit continues? Which trip is necessary? Which staff member stays? Which property is protected? Which public appearance is worth the cost? Who is responsible when a deal fails? Who controls what remains? Harry entered this marriage with inherited wealth, royal status, global recognition, and a family structure that protected him from ordinary financial reality.
It was only by marrying Harry that she became the global celebrity that she is. Her problem is she can't earn any money anymore. She made her money selling the dirt on the royal family, much of it, of course, in my view, invented, and now finds herself at an unfortunate crossroads where she can't raise money by work anymore, other than tawdry things like going to Australia and this health farm, and needs to find a new way for the rest of her life, a new source of income. Harry, on the other hand, could easily just have returned to Britain and be embraced by the royal family.
Meghan entered with a career, ambition, and a clear understanding that visibility could be converted into opportunity. Together, they made more money than either could have generated alone. But they also built a life that is staggeringly expensive to maintain. If the major deals shrink while the bills remain, the marriage becomes a business negotiation every day. Harry may want to spend millions fighting for security and pursuing legal battles. Meghan may want to pour money into products, public relations, and a brand that belongs to her future. Both can argue that their plan is the only one capable of saving them. That is not partnership. That is a collision.
If the British royal family is to survive, it is utterly essential that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are nowhere near the throne.
And Harry has already lost the one thing he once took for granted, a guaranteed place to land. A return to Britain would not restore the old life. The palace is not waiting to hand back his uniform, his position, and his public duties. William has no reason to trust him. The institution has already learned how quickly private conversations can become content. Every meeting would be controlled. Every invitation would carry conditions. Every step toward the family would come with suspicion. Harry might be welcomed privately by his father. That does not mean he would be welcomed back publicly by the monarchy. There is a massive difference between being allowed into a room and being restored to a role.
Personally, I would never forgive him, but if there was a situation where, say, the mainstream media had run a campaign which was like Operation Thor on speed for us to believe, oh, Harry's a changed man. He's not with Meghan anymore. He's realized the error of his ways. Maybe he's given a big apology to her. That sort of thing doesn't make it practically more difficult once he takes the throne for William to actually boot Harry out as a semi or working royal. Yes, it does. And so that's one of the reasons why I believe we just can't get to that place, right? Like, we can't fathom that happening.
He may discover that Britain will let him visit, but will not let him matter in the way he once did. He may be able to attend an event, see his father, or stay on family property, yet still remain outside the machine he thought he could leave and re-enter whenever convenient. That makes his position even more desperate. If California fails, Britain may not save him. If the marriage ends, there may be no royal reset button. If Meghan keeps the jewelry, builds a separate business identity, and remains in the United States, Harry could return with less money, less status, and more baggage than when he left. What exactly would he be returning as? Not a working royal, not the popular prince of the old days, not the Hollywood revolutionary who proved everyone wrong.
Of course, they are global characters, they're global celebrities. They've caused enormous damage to the royal family, and we're all fascinated how this is going to end. And that's the nature of my book. She's now paying the price of betrayal.
He would return as a man asking for protection, access, relevance, and forgiveness after spending years attacking the system capable of providing all four. And Meghan would know that. She would know how much he needs Britain. She would know how little Britain needs him. She would know that his emotional connection to Diana, his father, and the royal world can never be replaced by another California contract. She would also know that every solo UK trip exposes that weakness. That is why the Diana jewelry question is so powerful. It represents the entire marriage in miniature. Harry handed over something deeply personal because he believed the relationship was permanent. Now the legal reality may be colder than the emotional promise. The items belong to the person who received them.
Would Meghan want to keep it, though? That's the question. I think it's unlikely if she were able to use that jewelry. And it's a horrible thing to say, but we all know how Meghan Markle works. If she were able to use that jewelry as some type of, I guess, blackmail bid in order to get up the settlement, because we know what she's about. She's about the moolah.
Before we continue, one quick thing. One thing I've realized is that most families don't have their important information organized in one place. That's exactly why I recommend the Family Vault, a simple printable and fillable organizer where you can keep everything from important documents and insurance to medical information, passwords. You'll find the link in the description, or you can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Now let's get back to today's story.
Recovering them could require negotiation. Sentiment would have to compete with money. The same is true of the life they built. The Montecito home, the business entities, the brand rights, the media archive, the future books, the public story of the marriage, none of it would separate cleanly. Every part of their shared identity has commercial value. Every private grievance could become leverage. Every old interview could be replayed against the person who said it. Harry knows what happens when family pain becomes content. He helped build that market. Now imagine him becoming the next subject of it. Imagine a post-marriage book from Meghan. Imagine competing versions of what happened behind the gates in Montecito. Imagine Harry trying to return to Britain while new private details appear in American interviews.
Well, I think the Meghan Markle I know is on the good side, intelligent, resourceful, definitely resilient under fire, but on the other hand, intensely selfish, only self-opinionated, unable to see anything other than through her own lens, as she would say, appalling treatment of her father and her friends, old friends, a very conflicted personality.
Imagine the palace watching the same media weapon he used against them turn back toward him. Would he finally understand why the royal family kept its doors closed? Would the people he accused of cruelty be expected to rescue him from a disaster they warned him about? And would Meghan really surrender the most valuable story of her life without extracting everything she could from it? Again, there is no confirmed divorce. Tom Bauer himself says there is no firm evidence that the marriage has collapsed. But he also describes a couple under enormous financial pressure, a Meghan struggling to create fresh income, and a Harry whose path back into royal life is severely damaged. That is exactly why the situation is so combustible.
So there are huge regrets coming on Harry's side, but a lot of it is because, as you rightly point out, he is simply going to want to fold and return after the divorce.
A marriage does not need to be over for both people to begin protecting different futures. Meghan's future is increasingly branded in her own name. Harry's future keeps circling back to Britain. The jewelry sits in California. The family history remains in the UK. The money machine is slowing. The security fight continues. The palace door is barely open. And the question of what happens after the marriage is now impossible to ignore. Harry wanted freedom, but freedom came with invoices. He wanted independence, but independence stripped away the protection that once made his life possible. He wanted to punish the palace, but every year outside it has made him more dependent on the royal identity he tried to destroy. Now he may face the most humiliating choice of all: remain trapped inside a California life that is losing value.
But worst of all for her is that she couldn't find huge fame and fortune on her own accomplishments. Her problem is she has very limited talent. She isn't a great actress, to say the least. She doesn't actually come across as someone of great warmth when she's not acting. There's no mystery about her. She is just a hugely ambitious, grasping person.
Or return to Britain and admit that the institution he blamed was the only structure strong enough to hold him together. And Meghan? She could remain exactly where she is, surrounded by the home, the brand, the American media market, and jewelry carrying Diana's name. So what do you think is really happening here? Is Harry rebuilding his UK connections because he misses his family, or because he is terrified of what life would look like after Meghan?
She really doesn't understand the British royal family or Britain, but understands how to project her clients.
Is the security fight about safety, or about making a permanent British return financially possible? And if this marriage ever does collapse, should Diana's jewelry stay with Meghan, or should Harry be forced to trade part of his settlement just to bring his mother's pieces home? Because Harry may have spent years warning the world that history was repeating itself, he may soon discover that the most painful repetition is not Diana's story. It is his own decision to burn every bridge before checking whether California had built him another one.